I mean, I kind of liked it. Hello and welcome to Comic Island. My name is Arden, and this is my review of Marvel Legacy number 1. So here we are, the first big issue that really kicks things off for Marvel's new Legacy line of comics. We've had a few Generation issues come out so far, including one I really didn't like, but that was one side comic. This is the center of everything, and the tone and content of this issue is critical in setting the scene for the rest of Legacy. Now that being said, this isn't the end-all be-all for Legacy. When compared to Rebirth and the comic that kicked things off with Rebirth number 1, yes, that comic was a great first issue in what would become a run of DC's finest work to date. If Legacy number 1 doesn't achieve that, it doesn't mean that everything else that follows is automatically going to be good or bad. But it is definitely an important comic. There's no real way around that. What this comic says is very relevant, so we need to take a really good look at this particular issue. Things start off pretty strong with a look at the 10,000 BC content coming out as part of the Legacy line. Legacy number 1 is, after all, primarily written by Jason Aaron, and it makes sense that he would pay some special attention to his own project. So far, so good, and Aaron's writing feels very comfortable with the sad Rubik's art. That's the artist who did Secret Wars, and I really like how epic this guy makes everything feel. The whole comic is a big showcase of Marvel's current artist lineup, and their fine work is on point here. They make some great panels throughout this comic that really feel like it could easily outplay some of the stuff we saw in Rebirth number 1. All of that stuff is great, and I don't want to underestimate it. We see some phenomenal art throughout the comic. Then we transition into the modern age and are treated to a cool fight between Starbrand and the Rhea's Ghost Rider. That's fun, and there's some great content with the Avengers, a hint of Tony Stark's return, lots of little previews of the Legacy comics coming out. That's all fine, I guess. It's just, I suddenly am left feeling exactly like this panel. It's right about here in the comic that I got tired. We've seen this all before. Not so much in the Rebirth line, but as the same sort of thing Marvel does in every first issue in these soft reboots they've done. We're getting little snapshots of other comics, and there's nothing really here to draw me in, to show a change in the status quo or to feature something big and bold going on. Nothing new under the sun. There was a cool moment with Johnny Storm and the Thing, where they light a Fantastic Four beacon and remember their missing family. I liked that. Then we see some stuff with Black Panther. I liked it. It is cool that with this and Starbrand, they're starting to follow up on some of the content from Secret Wars. Yet that was pretty much it. I was starting to get really annoyed and disappointed in this issue. There wasn't anything all that different, just more of the same. The same talent behind the scenes, the same characters, the same standard villains and threats. I was just about to write off the comic as promising, but nothing all that special. Then an invader from Jotunheim has a roadside encounter on Midgard that changes everything.
I am Snar, son of Skarsicle, son of Coldbow, warrior of Jotunheim. And you should start screaming now before this dagger carves you into a pile of bloody slush. You hear me, human? You're dead!
Nah, not no more I ain't. Well, damn. We had heard rumors for a long time that this moment was coming. We knew it was coming the day he supposedly died. Yet I still just adored this moment. It was fun, but not anything that surprising. After all, resurrecting a character, especially after Marvel has killed so many off, isn't really that groundbreaking. In fact, there's going to be a great deal more of this soon. Then things start to really get interesting, and we find Logan holding an Infinity Stone. Sure enough, we then see Gamora confirm these stones are indeed returning, or at least are starting to be actively used again. And now I'm really starting to get interested. I'm pretty sure those powerful gems haven't been seen since they were destroyed during the events of Time Runs Out. So their return kind of feels like a big deal, and once again we have this connective tissue to some of the crazier ideas of Secret Wars. It's almost as if the reset and the world of Marvel during and before Secret Wars are starting to bleed back into Marvel in little subtle ways. I don't know what they're getting at, but then the final scenes pick up on an unseen narrator's thoughts on all of this, who is revealed to be none other than Valeria Richards. While her brother Franklin mentions the Fantastic Four family outside of Johnny and Ben are exploring universes, Valeria focuses and imagines her way home. It would have been very easy to end this comic on a symbol of Marvel or of Legacy. I wouldn't have blamed the company in the slightest if they did that. No more than DC's successful use of the Rebirth logo as a sort of brand these days. Marvel is probably going to build that brand, but they didn't here. This comic ends not on a sign of that or anything else, but a 4. An actual logo of the Fantastic Four. Marvel didn't have to do that. They never had to bring up the Fantastic Four again. But I am impressed and very glad that they did. When they first revealed they were getting rid of the Fantastic Four, I kind of understood the decision. After all the fun of Secret Wars, it was hard to get mad at the company. The comics weren't selling well, and Marvel's always had the same trouble as Fox in setting the right tone for this team in the modern age. I don't think I missed the Fantastic Four having their own comic series either. But what I did come to miss, and what is starting to bother me, is not having them as part of the Marvel world. I miss the Baxter building and the ability for this team to show up in other stories and big crossovers. I miss the characters and the fun they represented. The unambiguous love of science, exploration, and knowledge. And a real family dynamic, which behaved and felt like a genuine family, including all the ups and downs associated with it. Like I said at the beginning of this review, the tone being set in Legacy number 1 really matters. The content a little less so. And if Marvel is really going to follow through on some of the ideas being presented here, if they draw up on the themes, if we're really getting a return of Marvel's own actual legacy, and all the characters associated with that, then I am, for the first time in a long time, actually optimistic about Marvel's immediate future in the comic book industry. And not so much in terms of financial success, they've pretty much had that the whole time, but just in terms of being able to enjoy the average comic and not getting frustrated with all these extra things they attach to it under the surface. I like that they're actually following up on things from Secret Wars. I love that they're going back to the proper numbering for their issues, fully embracing the legacy this line is named after. Combine that with the return of Wolverine and plenty of other characters from the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and Marvel is really signaling an attempt to at least meet some of the more disgruntled fans halfway. I can work with this. I also like that they aren't abandoning everything from the last couple of years either. That would have made everything even more pointless than it already is. And there's some good characters and ideas introduced in this time that I would rather they don't just get rid of. So wonderfully, we still get the new characters in action and doing things. Riri does have potential, for example. She's still annoying in this issue, unfortunately, but all she needs is the right writer to just sort of polish the character into something better. And when we look at Miles and what they've done with Jane Foster and, a handful of the other new characters, they're fun and easily work as part of the larger story. Especially now that we aren't simultaneously abandoning all the older characters that made us fall in love with Marvel to begin with. We should not feel bad for basically having forced Marvel to do this as a general fan community. And it is worth remembering how bad the New 52 got before DC kind of got their act together and were basically forced to improve themselves as well. That's the whole point of a free market and the power of consumers to begin with. In turn, I think it's important to reward good behavior and to recognize a positive change when one comes our way. From what I've gathered out of this comic, that's what Legacy number 1 represents. Yes, there's a lot of boring stuff in here. Yes, it is, as always with Marvel, shrouded in certain corporate nonsense. And yes, I don't want to reward Marvel too much for fixing things that never should have been broken to begin with. But in spite of all that, there's the 4. I don't know, it really comes back to this. This means something to me. This scene was awesome, and this scene was awesome, and there's great art in here, and I just want to go back to a world where I can enjoy the average Marvel comic and not have to worry about these layers of silly agendas and movie rights and all this other stuff that really shouldn't affect these comics or their stories. This is actually why I'm most excited about Legacy. I'm actually really getting tired of having to criticize Marvel, but I'm not going to just ignore how I feel about these comics. If they can kind of get past some of these sillier things they've been doing and being more productive with their issues and telling these better stories the way DC has, I'll be happier. I don't expect to like every single series Marvel puts out. I don't feel that way about DC's Rebirth. But what I like about it is the overall quality is improved, and they're being bolder with what they do with the characters and the stories. Legacy #1 is the first real sign of them doing the same, and I really hope that's what we're getting going forward. So that's my review. I don't know if I recommend the comic itself. It's alright. It has its ups, it has its downs. It's okay. But what's important about it is that it had these moments that really impressed me. And what matters and what I recommend focusing on is what Marvel does next. All eyes are on them, but Legacy #1 is promising, and that's a very good thing. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Thanks to our patrons for picking this topic for this week's bonus review. And finally, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.
Thank you.